Hola, hola! In this video, I'm going to be sharing an interview that I had with a former student. We talked about entrepreneurship and leadership, and I talked about why I started in entrepreneurship in the first place and why you should too. I talked about the biggest challenge I face as an entrepreneur and continue to face. I talk about the emotional side of entrepreneurship that I feel like not a lot of people talk about, and I think it's so important to talk about. So I hope you enjoy this video. I think it was a good one. It's a lot of good insights in there, and make sure you stick to the end of the video where I put up a prompt where you can start participating with me on talking about what entrepreneurship is like. I think we can start a really good conversation in the comments. So I hope you stick around and enjoy the video. There's a lot of freedom that comes with entrepreneurship. Freedom not just in your day-to-day, like as far as like getting more time, more free time, and time to do things that you're passionate about, but also just freedom to do what you want to do in your business, right? So for me, I've had been seeing a lot of things that I was not okay with, not just here at my job, but also in different products in the market and different industries in the market. Actually found out that really, if I wanted to do things my way, I had to be the boss, right? So I had to own my own business in order to do whatever I wanted within that business. And that's something that I've been able to do with SunMud, my sunscreen business, where us as co-founders, we put the rules, right? We decide what we want to include in our product, what we don't, how we want to approach marketing, how we want to approach different supplier selection and things like that. So what really drew me into entrepreneurship was the freedom to make decisions for my own and create something that I am really proud of without having other people telling me what I can and can't do. I think the biggest challenge still to this day, it's been 3 years since we started SunMud. Being in a product-based business, I think the biggest thing is not knowing what you don't know, because you don't even know what questions to ask, because you don't even know what questions you have to be asking, if that makes sense. So especially like we're in the sunscreen industry, right? So there's certain things that are regulations and are certain tests that we have to do that I really had no idea before starting this. So even something like, okay, preparing a timeline of, okay, we're going to go through this test, and it's going to take 6 months. But then we didn't know we had to also do stability testing, not just the SPF testing. And that added 3 months, right? And like, so we had to push everything back. Or knowing that the minimum order quantities vary like a lot between different manufacturers. So we're like, yeah, we'll just make 5,000. And then you go and nobody will make 5,000 for you. And like, there's a minimum of 20,000 units that you have to do. And we're like, well, our plan was 5, but like, there's no way we can do that because nobody will make it for us. And those are just things that we didn't know, right? So it wasn't until we came up against it that we were like, oh shit, okay, we actually have to. But can I say shit? I'm sorry. The best advice is to get started as soon as possible. Like I said, you won't know what you need. You won't know what you don't know until you actually start. And I think a lot of people get kind of caught up in like, oh, I have to have everything perfect or I have to know everything. Like, you're not going to know everything ever. And you're not going to know enough and nothing's going to be perfect. So I think the best way to start a business is to start it as soon as possible and start making mistakes as soon as possible so that you can learn from those and then move on and keep going, because there's no course, there's no book that you can read, there's no mentor that you can have that will know everything. And so you experiencing it yourself, of course, you can have mentors to kind of guide you in the right direction, but there's going to be problems that arise that nobody has ever experienced because it's going to be unique to you and your business. Like every single business is different because the entrepreneur is different. So the best advice I would say is to start early, start failing early, and then learn from your mistakes, of course. Like keep track of how you're failing. Oh, I guess I should say planning just in general. And then in like a week basis, and then also like a quarterly basis, and then an annual basis. So like at the beginning of the year, I'll say, what do I actually want to focus on for this year? Like, obviously, it's not going to be like a tasks list. It's going to be more of a big picture. For SunMud, year 2024, our goal and our focus was to get into more retailers, right? So we set a goal. We're going to, by the end of the year, be in at least 36 retailers. So that was like the big plan, right? And then each quarter we're kind of checking in on that plan, and then also setting quarterly goals. And then I think what has really helped me stay sane has been my weekly planning, where I lay out my whole week and I see how much time I'm putting in every day to make sure that I'm not over promising anything, and to make sure that I'm allocating my time like evenly throughout the week instead of like putting everything on a Monday or putting everything on a Thursday. Really separating that out based on what I have going on that week has been really helpful. I'm a strong believer of working to your energy level and to where you're at that current week, that current day. If I know I'm going to be, for example, it might be TMI, but oh well, if I know I'm going to be menstruating that week, I'm not going to set up a bunch of meetings on that week in person, right? Like I'm going to take that time instead to reflect on what I've been doing, to see what's been working, what hasn't, maybe content creation, because that's more of like a creative thing that I can do at home, or content planning. Uh, but I'm not going to set up like a big presentation, right? So if I feel like I have a lot of energy, then that's where I put in the presentations, the meetings with clients, setting up meetings with buyers at retailers. And like when I feel my best, that's when I'm going to do that. So I guess to summarize, really planning out my week and my quarter and my year based on like big ideas, and then on the day to day, basing it on my energy level. And that way I can fit in whatever I need to. Like for a day, I'll say, okay, I'm going to be 8 hours at work, right? Because I still have a full-time job. And then that day I felt really low energy. So I'm not gonna book myself out that whole day, right? And I'm gonna leave room for me to do stretching or for me to go to the beach or whatever I need to do to feel better that day. So it's really important to be aware of how you're feeling and not just plan things without taking into consideration how you're gonna be energy wise that day. I think this is gonna be a little out there, but I would say don't be afraid to lean into your emotions. I think as a society, we've always pictured this leader as like fearless and strong and independent, and all of these things is what's going to drive you to become a better leader. There's actually been studies done where they show that actually women are better leaders than men. And it is because of this empathy. It's because of this adaptability that we have, just in our DNA and how we're built, and our brains just work differently in that way. And I think it comes down to being more emotionally savvy, that makes us just better leaders. So I think leaning into your emotional side, your feminine side, while being a leader, I think would be my advice. Don't be afraid to, cry every once in a while. So every time we start a team meeting, we start off with what is the best thing that's happened to you this week. And it's basically to start off the meeting in a good tone and, with good energy. And it seemed to really work. Like before we get into updates and potentially bad news or whatever, we always start off with what's the best thing that's happened to you this week. I guess I want to talk about the imposter phenomena a little bit, because I feel like we have this image of what leadership is and what a leader is, and sometimes it excludes a big majority of people because we don't look like a leader or we don't feel like a leader. But leadership can take many different forms. Or a theme that is not talked about a lot in leadership is the emotional side and how to stay aligned with yourself and your values. So just keep that in mind, I guess, that anyone can be a leader and that it is going to be rough, but you'll get through it. And yeah, I think that's it.
I hope you enjoyed that interview, and if you enjoyed that last question in particular and something resonated with you, I think you'll really enjoy this video next. I talk all about how to sync your menstrual cycle to your life so that you can be a big boss lady without burning out. So I think you'll enjoy it. It was a fun time filming that video, so take a look. If not, until next time, don't forget, Poquito goes a long way. Ciao!